one of 2025. Let's see what sort of adventures that it has in store. And pace cars way through the corner. That wasn't the crest doing him dirty.
There right off the beginning. It's something you probably want to monopolize on right away, honestly, in a rain race.
Involved in that as well. Godin, I believe, is a newer racer. Oh, that's a big crash coming out of the corner. Right as I was mentioning all of those racers that... We saw him have that off-track moment not terribly long ago, and he has come back from a... Oh my God, that's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars around. A little bit of contact going to Chris Montgomery as well. I saw that car kind of jerk around a little bit through that corner, but you can see Montgomery maybe got to size up a move on Colacio, as Colacio may try and get a move on. That is 5-6 cars covered by just about nothing on this racetrack. Nearly 4 wide through the corner. Look at Colacio going in way deep into turn 5. He's got to lose out on that spot on Chris Montgomery and Colacio. Too long contact being... Weekly Formula V Weekend Warriors Crash 'em Up Wreckfest at the Checkered Flag. May God have mercy on both Josh and I's graphics cards, because the event does... Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 9 of this season, coming to you today from Road Atlanta. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me, working the comms and the cams, as always, is Joshua Wilkie. We head to the final quarter of this season and head to an absolute gem of a racetrack. I absolutely adore Road Atlanta. There's a very good reason why I've done so many broadcasts running around here. This track is fun. This track is fast. And in these Formula Vs, it's going to be a draft party as well. So, Josh, kick back, relax. This is going to be some fun.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. This one's going to be great for sure. Road Atlanta, as you say as well, one of my favorite tracks for sure. I love driving around here. It's got some kind of unique challenges, a few blind corners, but mainly it's just flat out everywhere. And that's really fun. It's going to be super flat out in these Vs today, too. I'm expecting that we're going to have a race really where you're going to have to kind of pick your battles and stuff, because there's going to be lots of them to be had on track here.
Yeah, expecting a lot of battling around this track, doubly so with that massively long back straightaway here at Road Atlanta. One of the main fixtures to this racetrack in its current configuration, which has been in place since 1998, that back straightaway clocks in at 1.3 kilometers or 0.829 of a mile. It is a massively long straightaway, and we've seen in the past here in the Ray Esports / Weekend Warriors world some absolutely fantastic races here at Road Atlanta. And this track, when it comes to the Weekend Warriors, has a soft spot in my heart as well. It was here back in March of 2023. I think it was my 3rd or 4th broadcast period, and I did my first ever Weekend Warriors show here. It was the same day of the first ever Formula Ford race, which wasn't broadcasted, but with the Spec Racer Fords, we had a 56-car grid. I was calling it with Tim Cox. I had no idea what I was doing. Tim didn't know how to pronounce my last name, which, let's face it, really nobody does. And I remember being absolutely gobsmacked at the racing that I saw back then. And even now that I've been with the Weekend Warriors coming up to over 5 5 seasons at this point. Man, holy cow, time flies
Been
when
a
you're
while,
having
yep.
fun. It has been quite some time. I'm sure people are counting down the days until I do my last ever Weekend Warriors broadcast, but nevertheless, this track puts on some fantastic racing, and we're expecting some fun out of today. And Josh, as we're following our sponsor for today's broadcast, Tortola, along with his dad, Nick, how about you give us a little track guide around this place?
Yeah, let's see if we can't get a track guide around here with Tortello sponsoring today's race here. So going into T1, this is probably going to be one of your better passing opportunities on the track here if you can get it done in that little short shoot. Really important to get this one right. As we can see, he's going to be flat through here, I would imagine. Maybe a tiny lift there just on this occasion. Then we're into one of the more difficult spots here. A little hop, skip, and a jump through a really blind spot. Got to get it just right. You got to get that turn in just right. Only one hack at it. If you have to take more than one, you lose a ton of time. Then again down here, totally flat through the S's. Really important left-hander coming up. You got to get this one just right. You can see him opening it up as wide as possible on the left or on the right-hand side there to cut it back in left. Take a bunch of that curb and just stay on the gas as much as you can. In some other cars, that area is just a rodeo and a half. You're just holding on for dear life through there, but a little bit less violent maybe in a V, but still a difficult spot. Probably the most important spot on the track we just went through right there, the hairpin. Sort of a hairpin at least anyway, double apexer, and it's going to be a difficult one there. You've got to get the entry just right. If you overspeed it, it's really easy to lose the back end, and it's really easy to not get a good exit here, which is super important. As we can see, Tor here just drafting. I believe that's Coliseo in front of him. This is going to be your best passing opportunity on Road Atlanta, and you have this entire lap to think about. One of the more difficult sections of the track here being, I believe this is 10A and 10B. Very difficult to get this one right. Lots of curb on the inside on both of them, and you've got to get this exit correct. Big braking zone into there as well. We're probably going to see people trying to get passes done into that braking zone, but getting the chicane right to set up your next lap is also really important, Ron, and that's lap of Road Atlanta.
Yeah, an absolute roller coaster of a lap as well. You can see the massive elevation change around this track. It's old school for sure. It opened all the way back in 1970, and it took only 6 months to build, and that was a very good time to do that onboard lap with Tortolo. Just improved on his already fastest time in this practice session to jump up to 143.213, and good thing we didn't wait on that for one more lap as he backs it into the wall. That was heading off through the mid-sector of the lap down into turns number 2, 3, and 4. Rapid section around this track, and in these Formula Vs, you are hauling the mail, hitting that curb, and I think he just decided to call it and loop-de-loo and hit the wall ever so slightly. No harm, no foul here in this sim. You know, iRacing mechanics don't really have any emotions, so good time to maybe do it in practice instead of qualifying, or especially that race coming up here today. Tello already has a couple of wins up to this point here in Season 2 of 2025, which I think brings us into a good time to talk about the championship point standings. Heading into this 9th round of this championship, it has been a wild ride up to this point with some absolutely fantastic races. We had a pretty good one last time out at Oschersleben that I had mistakenly called the Oschersleben Ring as I was doing the open for that broadcast. I think that name may potentially stick in the not too far off future. It just has a better ring to it. Rolls off the tongue like rich gooey molasses. But regardless, let's take a look at the championship point standings. Jason Green is doing pretty good thus far this season, is leading the championship with a pretty comfortable margin between himself and Nate Coliseo. Doing the quick math, that is 59 points between Green and Coliseo at the front of Spec 1. Felix Samoas is slotted in P2. Ethan Orr, off the back of that win last time out at Oschersleben, though, he's slotted in 4th, only 1 point back of Samoa, so that looks pretty hair-raising towards the end of this season. Guido Marzuki rounds at your top 5. You can see Tortolo, who we rode on board with, the 2-time reigning champion here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Probably a bad time to say this, considering he is a sponsor of today's broadcast, but after skipping out on about 5 races up to this point, even if he had a perfectly clean run through the rest of the season, doubt he'll be involved in that championship battle, sitting at just 364 points. 362 points, my apologies. I was 2 off there, giving him the benefit of the doubt, but there you can see it in Spec 1. Gonna move on now to Spec 2, and Josh, how about you take a look at this one for me?
Yeah, in Spec 2, we have Series Admin Michelle Lynn with 486 points there. Pretty big lead out in Spec 2 at the moment here, and then it gets a little closer. So as we move kind of down the line here, Second place for 401 with Parvinder Ladar, and then Travis Rail not too far behind him with 398. Jason Grider with 393, and then a little bit more of a jump there to Dan Szynski in fifth with 360 points. But we're pretty close here in the S2 class. So it looks like, you know, Michelle kind of running away with first place there, but then it starts to get pretty tight. So we're definitely looking for there's some podium positions to be had in S2, Ron.
Yeah, and certainly looking forward to some nice championship battles to keep our eyes on in the final few rounds of this season. And with Spec 2 taken care of, let's take a look at Masters, where Jim Brewster is your championship points leader. Series admin doing absolute wonders up to this point in the season. Has a handful of wins already, including a win in the opening round at Cadwell Park. He leads it with 571 points on the board. I'm sure Tam in the YouTube chat is very happy to hear that news. Kurt Nunez slotted in second. Nick Tullo, the sponsor of today's broadcast, along with his son Tour, is slotted in third. Alan DeGassis, who we were thinking was going to have a pretty good run after grabbing about 3 wins in a row in Masters, had a pretty rough go of things last time out at Oschersleben, getting caught up in a lap 1 turn 2 Shamazel. Currently slotted in fourth. Wayne Buttermore, who's just a staple here in the Weekend Warriors, rounds at your top 5, and really rounds out the drivers who have made a full season charge here in the Formula V's. You can see the rest of the drivers class there all below 100 points. But with the championship points taking a look at, getting to the end of this practice session, and Michelle Lynn showing off the challenges of turn 5.
Yeah, there's that spot. Excuse me, there's that spot. It's very difficult through here. You're pretty much just trying to take a bunch of curb. So you can, a little bit too much exit on that one. Took a little bit of dirt there, but, just on the setup for it there on the entry, not easy to get right. You kind of taking a bunch of curb on the entry, and then a bunch at apex, and then a little bit on exit as well. So it's a bit of a rowdy corner, that one.
Yeah, really tough corner to try and get right. Those curbs as well. Holy cow. I mean, I think, I'm not an expert when it comes to racetrack design. I just yap about race cars on the internet, but I feel like it would probably be safer just to have a landmine, an unexploded landmine on the outside of turn number 5 instead of that exit curb. They more or less do the same thing when it comes to certain race cars. I've seen some janky physics with that curb as well. I remember one time doing, I think it was a GT4 broadcast here, and I somehow saw both inside tires picking up in the air after they hit the curb. So that is a pretty sizable whack, especially in these Formula Vs. So want to try and avoid touching that with a 10-foot pole. If you can avoid it at all costs, that will be the name of the game. But heading off into this qualifying session here in a couple of moments, Tortolo was the pace setter in that practice session earlier on. He was joined at the top of the leaderboard by another familiar name here in the Weekend Warriors world, that being, getting this up right now, Parvinder Ladar, who actually won in the Spec 2 category last time out at Oschersleben. He was the second quickest car, albeit about 0.6 of a second between those two drivers. Can't really lead too much into those practice results. Obviously a 1-hour-long session. A lot less time here in this 15-minute-long solo session. 4 laps allotted to these drivers, and one of the main differences, of course, being the lack of the draft. These drivers all on the track by their lonesome, so not going to have any sort of draft assistance as these drivers hit the track.
Yeah, absolutely. No assistance there at all. And you bring up a good point there, Ron. Just because you're able to go out there and get a really good lap in an entire hour doesn't mean you're going to be able to execute it in this 15 minutes. And I've learned that a few times in the other series as well. This one a little easier, actually a lot easier, because you get to go out and do a solo qualifying lap here and not have to worry about any traffic or someone trying to draft you, or just simply not getting a draft and being way down the order. But this one, solo qualifying session, that doesn't mean that you can't still make mistakes, though. You're out there trying to extract every inch out of the track, and it's really easy to just go a little deep or, just miss something, get an off track, and boom, there goes your whole lap. You only have a few chances here, and you've got to get it right.
And that's a yin and the yang when it comes to having a solo qualifying session. In these FVs, you won't have to worry about the draft, which can be a good or bad thing. When you pick up the draft, it feels wonderful. If your competitor picks up a draft and you can't, you feel bad. You start to get a little bit upset about the qualifying format. And speaking of phrases that won't be said because of solo qualifying, in a solo qualifying session, you're never going to hear one of these drivers mutter under their breath, "Get out of the way, you dumb son of a..." Look looking at Brian Szynski heading his way off through the S's right now. This is his first qualifying time. Let's see how he and his brother Dan will be able to do in this qualifying session here. Already 2.5 minutes on the board. This is a rather long lap here at Road Atlanta, 2.5 miles, just a tick over 4 kilometers, and with 12 turns in all, at least according to the ones that are properly numbered on the iRacing track map. It will be a rather tough task for these drivers ahead in the 30-minute long race, but it's important to get a good qualifying time, and that's exactly what these drivers are itching to do. Here is your reigning race winner here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors, Ethan Orr in the number 22 car. He had a rather shocking win last time out that I will continue to contend that I may or may not have predicted. I said a couple of corners before there was an incident hanging down the back straightaway that he was probably hoping for the two drivers in the form of Felix Mounz and Samuel Parent to come to blows. And then right after I said that, those two drivers came to blows, and Ethan Orr now has a win here in Season 2 of 2025. He's looking to carry on that momentum, Josh. I'm sure we can both speak to this with the amount of broadcasts that we have done, just how much one win can put massive amounts of wind in your sails.
Yeah, it definitely does seem that way, doesn't it? You get a win, you get a bit of confidence under your belt, you start to realize, hey, maybe I can hang with these guys, and that really does change things a lot. It really can. It can change your whole season. You can go from, thinking that you're not supposed to be hanging here to all of a sudden, okay, no, I'm supposed to be with these guys, and it really does change your mindset on the way you're going to drive and how you're going to approach each race and so on. And I think probably that's what's happened with Ethan Orr here. He's on a bit of a rise. Looks like he's putting in a pretty good lap here as well. He's got a purple sector, a green sector, and one yellow. See if this last one, he can just pull it out here and see if we can't get a good lap. I think he's probably going to go provisional pole here, I would imagine. We get the results up here, and will he take it? Not quite, actually. It looks like maybe he must have off-tracked somewhere around and lost that lap.
Actually, looking through, yeah, that is a very good question that you raised there, Josh, because as we see, heading his way off through the first series of corners, yeah, that lap time wasn't validated for Ethan Orr, so we'll have to keep it clean. That's one thing as well with these solo sessions. The qualifying scrutiny cranked up a little bit. If you just dip a wheel off into the dirt running around here, gonna pick up a incident point, and because of that, you won't be able to put a lap time down on the board. But as we see, some drivers already have, with about 5 minutes on the clock already. Felix Mounz is currently at the front, saying a 144.556, and continuing on a streak of drivers here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. We have had 3 different Spec 1 pole sitters thus far this season. It's been Jason Green, Tortolo, and Felix Mounz. Felix has actually grabbed the least amount of poles out of anybody in Spec 1. Only 2, I say only 2. Grabbed the pole at Magny-Cours and grabbed the pole at VIR on the North configuration. But one thing to raise about this season up to this point, not a lot of drivers have been able to convert those poles into wins. In fact, the only driver to be able to convert a Spec 1 pole into an overall win was Tortolo back at the Saxon Ring. So haven't really seen too many drivers be able to do that up to this point. So may need to keep tabs on whether or not Tortolo is going to be up at the front still, slotted in P2. The pole may be a big thing, but as we've proved with only 2 drivers, correction to myself, being able to convert a Spec 1 pole into a Spec 1 win may not have that much weight at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good stat, or interesting stat to bring up there, Ron. Starting these races, almost a guarantee that you're not gonna win it. So it's maybe not such a big deal to get pole. We know that it's just going to be draft back and forth and back and forth. Really, I think I said it a few rounds ago too. Getting pole is sort of just like a bit of an indicator to the rest of the field that, okay, listen, I've got the pace. If you want to be following some pace, or you want pace, you should be following me. And that's sort of the way it happens, I believe. So you can see, someone like Felix Mounz, he's going to get up there. Maybe he will get pole today. It looks like he's got a pretty solid lap in there at the moment. He's looking pretty good for pole. And that'll be sort of an indication of everybody else is, okay, that's sort of my marker right there. If I stay with him, then everything should be okay. I should be able to be there at the end. I should be able to get a podium at the end. And that's kind of what it does. But really, in saying that, it's basically just put a target on your back.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, having a target on your back is not the most ideal strategy, and doubly so around a track like this. I mean, you could start the run coming out of turn number 8 down that back straightaway off into the turn 10 chicane for the last time. You could start that straightaway all the way down P5, let's just say, and you could probably jump your way up into the race lead at the end of it all. So there's a lot that can change at the end of these races. These drivers, as much as they're looking to get a good time on the board, it's not a game ender if they can't. But Andrew Love currently on track for the pole in Spec 2, qualified P6 overall. That's pretty good lap time for the driver of the 544 car. Crosses the line to set another time. Believe that may have been invalidated for him, to still going to remain at that 144.825. Grabbed his first pole position of the season in the Spec 2 category the last time out. Actually, no, this was 2 times ago at Laguna Seca. So upon that, I need to update my statistics here on my notes, because clearly I've been slacking as a drift from Andrew Love heading through the S's.
Yikes. Yep, that was a close one. You know, you don't get a whole lot of those in these, but when you do, they're a little bit difficult to recover, just because there's, wow, and there's another big one. He must have lit the tires up a little, which is a good thing to mention too. You know, when you do have those little moments, it tends to bring the tire temp up. And as we know in iRacing, you know, the tire temps like to kind of hang around when you do that. And looks like he's probably fallen victim to that as he burns it down here. We're getting the whining noise in my ears there. Gonna blow his transmission out for sure. But yeah, it seems like, you know, if you just ask a little too much of the tire, it heats up, and then it takes a corner or two at least to kind of get that temp back.
And because my qualifying statistics were 1 week out of date, I should let you know that Felix Samoas is actually tied with Jason Green for having 3 poles up to this point in this season. So you can take everything that I've said when it comes to qualifying and throw it out the window. Still, this will be a good qualifying time for Felix Samoas if he can stay at the front. Nate Coliseo and Ethan Orr still out there on the track. Here's Coliseo in the number 8 car. Now, this has been a bit of a surprising season from Coliseo, if I can spit my words out properly. Yet to grab a win thus far. We will be heading to Lime Rock, which is a pretty happy hunting ground for him. He's won the past 2 races there here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors, but I'm sure he would want to have a win before the second to last round of the championship. Currently slotted in P4 as Ethan Orr jumping up to the front row.
Yeah, Ethan Orr finally able to get that lap in there, and yeah, as you mentioned here, Coliseo, yeah, it's kind of not having maybe the brightest season here for sure. He's sort of been at the front, he's been around, but hasn't really been able to translate that into a bunch of good positions quite yet. But always a really exciting driver to watch. Love watching Coliseo do his thing out there for sure. But yeah, it looks like Ethan Orr was able to pop that lap in there and bring himself up to second place, so he's able to put it together. Wonder if we're going to see anybody get close to Felix Samoas here. He is 2/10-ish, maybe just a little bit less than 2/10-ish ahead of everybody. And in these things, Ron, we know that's quite a bit of pace to have.
Yeah, that is a huge amount of pace to have. So building up a gap like that, that's going to be nice. And hey, if there's any sort of drama that may break out, we may end up seeing a breakaway. I remember, I think it was the first ever Formula V Weekend Warriors race broadcasted here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. It was our old Weekend Warriors pal, who we haven't seen in quite some time, Mrs. Megan Overstreet, grabbing the win and breaking away from the rest of the field at Summit Point of all places, which, hey, considering the finish of the Summit Point race about 1 season ago here on SMB for the Formula V Weekend Warriors, ended up on the iRacing social media pages as it came across the line 4 wide. That the fact that she was able to break away at a track like that is truly surprising. But hey, with a little bit of extra drama, anything can happen at the end of these races. If there's any track and any series that can prove that, it is the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Alan Degassis set to grab another pole position this season here in the Masters category. This will be his 4th pole in a. This will actually be his 5th pole in a row if he can hang on, grab the pole position. Of course, last time out at Osherslave and the time before that at Laguna Seca, grabbed it at Lebanon and also grabbed the pole at VIR. So Alan Degassis is proving to be a bit of a qualifying maestro here in the Masters class, as he even grabbed the pole for round number 3 at Summit Point. So he's looking to show the same pace as ever before.
Alan Degassis has had really good pace all season for sure, Ron. It's been a pretty good show from him there. Just kind of hopefully being able to turn those into moving up the field just a little bit more and stuff here. But we've seen him at the pointy end of the field a couple times in the last few races here. So Alan's got some good speed for sure. And it looks like he's doing fairly good here too, easily taking the, or not easily actually, Jim Brewster's not too far behind him there, about a 10th behind. But that one should be fairly close there actually. And as we know, there's going to be lots of drafting going on, so it's really just a matter of staying alive out there. You got to keep your nose clean.
And if anyone's curious as to why I said 4 pole positions in a row for Alan DeGassis instead of the correct 5, if you can hang on, that was because I was still updating my notes. That'd be a fun video for the Slow Motion Broadcasting YouTube channel, Josh. Watch me put my notes together. You've seen my notes, and I believe Charles and Guido Marzuki have seen some of my notes, considering I usually share those right before we go on the air. So anyone who has not seen my notes, I usually have them color coordinated with red for Spec 1, green for Spec 2, and yellow for Masters. I need to color coordinate everything because I have a chimp brain, so I can't really process anything otherwise, which is part of the reason why my notebooks in school always were super colorful. That's not the reason. That was a bold-faced lie. I never took notes when I came to school. But nonetheless, here with 2 minutes left to go in this qualifying session, looks like just about everyone has done their lap times and no one really looking to improve. So it's going to be Felix Samoas starting from the pole. Ethan Orr set to join him on the front row. And looks like we are going to have 18 starters here at Road Atlanta here today. Getting to the month of May, getting towards the start of summer, and next week we'll be doing it on the same weekend as I like to call it, the greatest day in racing, for as long as that's still around. I know the Monaco Grand Prix is going to be moving dates either this upcoming year in 2026 or the year after in 2027, but regardless, it's still going to be a nice way to bring this season to a close. And looking through the remaining races that we have here from the Formula V Weekend Warriors, we've got, of course, Road Atlanta here today. Gonna be staying in America for the next 2 weeks as we run on the Sonoma shortened NASCAR Cup layout. So that is going to be rather fun. I feel like whenever I say shortened, the YouTube closed captioner probably doesn't know what I said. That's just my Philadelphia speaking. Lime Rock on the classic layout, going to be the second to last round of this season, where we may end up seeing some drivers seal the deal in their respective championships. And Oran Park on the Grand Prix layout, going to bring this season to a close. Got the opportunity to cover the Sim Racers Group F4 series, which you can catch on Wednesdays at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. They're running at Oran a couple of weeks ago, and that race was rather hectic with some rain soaking in the mix. Haven't seen any rain races here this season. Saw a couple last season, and who knows, maybe for season 3 of 2025 may end up seeing some rain affected races. That would be kind of cool. I don't think your graphics card would appreciate that though, Josh.
Yeah, the rain can definitely pull a little bit from the computer. It's getting a little better these days in iRacing. They've been able to optimize a little, and I'm sure they'll continue to do so. But yeah, rain can definitely hurt the machine a little bit. You need some graphics card and some CPU power. Looks like we got a bit of a short pace lap here on. We'll get to the grid.
And thankfully, we have only 18 cars, so this won't be too bad. Felix Samoas will start this race from the pole position. Ethan Orr will join him on that front row. Starting in third is going to be Nate Colascio, joined by our sponsor for today's broadcast, Tortullo, in fourth. Chris Montgomery is usually pretty quick in this series. Will start in fifth alongside your Spec 2 pole sitter of Andrew Love. In P7, it's going to be SMB's very own Guido Marzuki. Michelle Lynn will start in P8. In P9, it's going to be Parvin Ladar. Rounding out our top 10 will be Chris Walker. Alan DeGassis will start in 11th, your pole sitter in Masters, alongside Jim Brewster in 12th, Brian Szynski in P13, Kurt Nunez in P14, Dan Szynski in 15th, Scott Brailer in 16th, Jason Grider and Wayne Buttermore running at your 18-car grid for this race. This is going to be a fun one for the first ever running here on Slow Motion Broadcasting of the Thompson Trophy 500 here at Road Atlanta. The green flag is out and the drivers are on their way down the start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1. It is a dream start from Felix Samoas as he leads them off into turn number 1. Not a dream start for Guido Marzuki. He's actually had to start this race from pit lane. Not sure why that is, but the number 19 car currently slotted in 20th as they head their way down into the first series of corners. Running a little bit wide is the banana car of Nate Colascio, slipping on the peel as now side by side with himself and Ethan Orr.
Yeah, looks like a pretty straightforward start here so far. Everybody got single filed out pretty quickly, which is exactly what you want to do through this section right here. You're not going to be fast. Chances are actually you're going to end up in the wall if you try to go double file through pretty much any of that section right there. So everybody's single filed out. Looks like we're playing ball with each other here so far. Things are going to get a little frenetic down this back straightaway, though. This is where things start to happen. You're going to figure out, okay, am I going to get by this guy right now? Am I going to do it on the first lap? Well, we're going to find out right now, and it looks like we've got Andrew Love pulling out. He has decided to go past Parvinder Ladar here. Not sure that's going to work out for him with Degas. Is going to be able to get that draft right to the back of Ladar. Might end up leaving him kind of hung out to dry. Not quite, but we are side by side up front, Ron.
And before I get kicked in the nuts by a meowing military man from Reno, Nevada, that was an idea from Tortolo, so I absolve myself from any responsibility for that. As 3 wide racing down into the chicane for the first time. Ethan Orr going to jump into the race lead. Coliseo in P2. Felix Samoa is dropping down to 3rd. You can see the pack is still rather close all throughout this field. Some side-by-side racing going on involving Wayne Buttermore and Jason Grider. Guido Marzuki, as I mentioned, he started this race from pit lane, so not entirely sure why that is the case, but nonetheless, he finds himself in P18 at the present moment, going to be out of contention pretty much from the drop of the green flag. But at the north end, it is Nate Coliseo in front of Ethan Orr, in front of Felix Samoas, as Parvinder Ladar maybe having a moment heading off through turn number 1. He's dropping down like a rock down the running order, currently in P15 at the present moment. Something must have happened to our Spec 2 pole sitter at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, looks like he got shuffled out there somehow. We'll definitely have a look back at that here shortly. Not a place that you want to be trying to go 2x2 through generally, especially this early in the race. You just kind of want to settle in a little bit here. Try to figure out your pace. That big, long back straightaway is the best place. If you want to just take somebody's position away from them, that's probably the easiest, best place to do it. Especially this early in the race when everybody's going to be drafting now. There's not anybody out there who isn't able to pull a draft at the moment, so you should be able to get it done there. But let's have a quick look back here at Parvinder Ladar, see what happened.
And I'm going to correct myself. Parvinder Ladar actually started P3 of the Spec 2 competitors, but he made his way up to the back of your Spec 2 pole sitter of Andrew Love. However, running wide through turn number 1, going to send him off into the grass and taking a one-way trip down the running order, as we've got 4 cars covered by nothing heading down into turn number 1. It's a pack of ants running their way up the hill down into turn number 10, and it's Samoas getting that move done to jump into the race lead. Ethan Orr slotted in second. Coliseo and Tolo rounding at your top 4. We've got Chris Montgomery still involved in that battle as well. Andrew Love, your leader in Spec 2, but Alan DeGasse is still leading in the Masters class. However, Jim Brewster right within striking distance, so we may end up seeing a swapperoo between those two when everything is said and done.
Yeah, that was actually pretty wild there through that section. We're lucky to have got through there. I saw Coliseo, and he was really forcing the issue there, almost on the inside of I believe that was Ethan Orr. Able to get through there no problem though, and we're able to fight another day here, but that was pretty contentious there for a moment. So things are getting pretty gnarly here right off the bat, as we're just nose to tail up at the front here. We're looking for some positions by the looks of it, Ron. They're not waiting around.
Yeah, these drivers are getting feisty at the very start of this race. They're here to have some fun. They're here to grab some positions. And a lot of these drivers may be feeling the burn of a championship battle as well. We saw how close some of these drivers are when it comes to their respective class championships, trying to make some inroads right towards the end of this season. Hey, after today, we're only going to have 3 more races left from this 12-round championship, so it has really come down to crunch time here from this season of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Parvinder Ladar goes off the track yet again in the back of shots as we ride on board with Andrew Love. That was coming out of turn number 7. A tough moment for him and a tough start to this race for your P3 starter of the Spec 2 drivers, P9 overall, when that green flag drops. Felix Samoas jumps into the race lead. Nate Coliseo slotted in second. Tortolo maybe trying to make something work. He's side by side with Ethan Orr through the braking zone into the turn 10 chicane. Looks like Orr will remain in that spot for now, but as we saw those drivers briefly battle, you can see how much that gap has ballooned between Coliseo and Ethan Orr. That's 7 coming up to 0.8 of a second after a brief bout of side-by-side racing. When you get a move done here, you run the really rough risk of having your competitors just pull away from you as you go side-by-side.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing little hacks like that right there. There's a really good example, as you say it. You see Montgomery kind of pull out to the outside, and you know what he's trying to do there, I'm sure, is just set it up so that Tor maybe gets a compromised line as he has to pull out, you know, thinking that, okay, I'm going to have to block this line. And really, Ron, all that's doing is slowing them both down. As you can see right now, Montgomery lost a bunch of time, Tor lost a little bunch of time. it would be much, much better at this stage to not be taking little hacks out of the driver in front of you. All it is slow. That's it. That's all it is. So what you want to do right now, especially if you're behind somebody like Tor, in my opinion at least, is to just attach to him. He's going to make up those positions. Don't put too much pressure on him, and you'll be able to move forward. If you keep trying to hack at him every corner, you're just going to end up slowing down. You're going to take his pace away from him. It's going to take your pace away from you, and then it sort of extrapolates down the line. But we'll see exactly how this works out. Of course, not just picking on Chris Montgomery here. This is happening all throughout the field. You have to make those decisions whether or not you're going to do that, as we can see Colacio pulling out here on Samoas. Looks like he's going to be able to get it done before the corner, though, and that is key, Ron.
Yeah, if you can get it single-filed out heading through some of the turns, you're not going to lose out on a lot of speed. That's part of the reason why Felix Samoas, a veteran of the Weekend Warriors, dips back in tow. You brought up a fantastic point there, though, Josh, talking about the patience that's required to really stay involved in the battle. Hey, if you give us stuff to talk about in the early stages of this race, thank you. But at the same time, if you're not the one spraying that champagne in victory lane, does it really matter at the end of the day? Granted, it's exciting for us in the commentary booth, but exciting us doesn't pay the bills. It pays our bills as broadcasters, but that's about it. As contact through turn number 1, Colacio making contact. It was himself and Ethan Orr heading through turn number 1. Got to take a look at a replay of that. Nate Colacio having a wild ride off through the grass. I thought he saved it for a couple of seconds. I think that he thought he saved it for a couple of seconds, but then it snapped back around on him, and he has a spin. Scott Brailer and Brian Zazinski were some of the first cars to arrive at the scene of this near accident, heading off through the corner. That could have ended in an absolute disaster. Brailer nearly coming to blows with himself, Brian Zazinski and Michelle Lynn involved in all of that as well. That could have ended in tears, but nonetheless, it's a huge moment for Nate Colacio. That should be the warning shot up in the air for these competitors. Hey, it may be exciting, it may be fun, but at the same time, if you're beating and banging and roughing each other up way away from that checkered flag, does it even really matter?
Yeah, no, it really doesn't, Ron. And again, you know, right when we were talking about it, that was, in my opinion, at least anyway, just a silly risk. Why go too wide through T1? It's only slow. It's going to slow both of you down. The chances that you're going to make it through the corner without somebody spinning are very low. It just doesn't make any sense to me why anybody would want to do that or this early in the race. But it's racing. You know, I've been caught up in that sort of thing too, where sometimes you just get target fixed, you get a little pointy, and you just go for it. And you know, that's sort of what happened there. Unfortunately, it looks like, I believe that was Ethan Orr up the inside of him there. And, you know, if you're going into that corner and somebody's ahead, I just give them the corner, generally speaking, because it's just going to be slow. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, really just that sort of stuff. Again, as I said at the time, it's exciting for us in the commentary booth. When we get action, we're happy because we get paid to talk about it. But at the same time, these drivers, they aren't paid to give us a good race to talk about in the booth. They are paid to try and get that win. I say paid, it's sim racing. All these drivers are just out there for fun. But the point remains, they're out here to try and grab a win. They're not out here to bring the thunder, and they need to realize that. I mean, I'm not complaining about having action to talk about. I'm just saying that these drivers are really screwing themselves over when it comes to all of this. Colacio, he's towed back to the pits. He's in P18. He is out of contention in this race. So one driver down in this pack, which now contains about 8 cars. You can see Chris Walker in that very striking 223 car at the tail end of this pack. As we take a look at another replay of this moment, you can see Felix Samoas gets that move done on Colacio. Then here comes Ethan Orr trying to get that move done as well. I can really pin blame on both of those drivers. I think Colacio chopping across the nose of Ethan Orr a little bit, and Ethan Orr going for a move that really should not have been done. But at the same time, you gotta remember that these drivers looking to keep the momentum going every single opportunity that they can. So can't really fault them too much. At the same time, it's just tough stuff to have at the very beginning of this race. Side-by-side racing, 3 wide racing as it briefly was down into turn number 10, results in Felix Samoas jumping into the race lead. Tullo slotted in second. Ethan Orr running at your podium as it stands at the present moment. But one last point, talking about the aggression and sometimes over-aggression that you have in this race. If you're moving out of your tree house, there's no point cutting that tree down as soon as you move out unless your new house is already built.
Absolutely. Yep. You want to make sure that you've at least got that thing ready and you got it in the bank so that you can, and Jim, it's going to be later laps, right? Like we're seeing a lot of attacking into T1 here, which is kind of surprising me a little bit. It's one of the worst places to try to pass someone unless you can get it done down the straightaway. It's going to really, really compromise your run through that corner. And it's just accordioning this entire pack of cars here as we saw. Wow, Montgomery getting all full off the ground there through that section. Really fun little section in that car. In the car, honestly, it's a bit of a butt clencher, but it's fun to go through there. And yeah, he was able to hold that one together there. Some good driving from Montgomery. Super fun to watch stuff like that. But back to the point there, kind of surprising me here that they're going too wide into T1 every corner. Again, we have the luxury of being able to see this from different camera angles, and we can see, it look kind of silly, and it's really easy to armchair it. It's a lot more difficult when you're there and there's 5 cars behind you, and you're like, you know what? If I don't go too wide through here, I'm just going to get mobbed, and I got to do it. And that's what it feels like sometimes, and I think that's probably what we're seeing here as well. It's just pressure as Montgomery applying more pressure.
And Chris Montgomery, a very quick driver, and he's familiar with coming out victorious in situations like this.
Boy.
3 wide down into turn 10. Holy cow, that's Ethan Orr trying to get a 3-for-1 deal down into the chicane. Not going to work out his ways. He's now stuck on the outside with Ethan Orr and Tortello, looking to get some moves done on him. Alan DeGassis and Jim Brewster still nose to tail. Those two are your top running Masters competitors presently. Andrew Love, your Spec 2 leader, still involved in this battle as well, looking comfortable for him in that Spec 2 category. Here's DeGassis. He's got Jim Brewster right on his bumper, as on the outside of him is Ethan Orr, and you can see the drivers going side by side, battling tooth and nail right in front of him. We take a look behind DeGassis. Look at that, and you can see close quarter stuff down through into turn number 3. That was Chris Walker looking to get some moves done as well. These drivers really turning up the wick in the early stages of this race. But the point I was going to raise that Chris Montgomery, he's familiar with situations like this, and he knows how to come out victorious. He won the race at Lime Rock a couple of seasons ago, nose to nose with himself and Jesus Rodriguez after a heart-pumping draft battle to the line, ended in tears. Montgomery knows how to manage these draft-heavy races. I think he's proving that right now.
Yeah, applying the pressure for sure. Done a really good job here of applying just the right amount of pressure and being able to stay alive as well. So I take back what I said earlier there. I thought maybe it was a little bit ill-advised, the kind of pressure he was putting and getting too wide and kind of wedging and stuff. But hey, he's made his way up to the front here. He's kept it clean, and that's exactly what you want to do as we go 3 wide, and he is going to be the sandwich. He's got himself in some stuff now for sure, and it's going to have to get it done here, Ron, into 10A.
Will he get it done is the real question. Still a little bit of overlap between Tolo and Samoas through the braking zone, but ends in Tolo jumping his way up into the race lead. As I said a little bit earlier on, Tortello, no stranger to winning in this series. He's a 2-time reigning champion of the Formula. Oh boy, worst time to get the hiccups. He's a 2-time reigning champion here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors for a good reason. He's quick, hasn't been a consistent force all throughout the season. He just really hasn't shown up as 2x2 and nearly 3x2 at the front of the field. Jim Brewster looking to take a run coming out of turn number 1 down into 2, 3, and 4. Gets a move done nearly on Ethan Orr, who's still on his inside. Looks like Brewster going to back out of it. Now Chris Walker looking to get a move done on him as well. Of all the drivers who are going to be the most patient, it's going to be Jim. He teaches these drivers week in and week out, those who may be new or some who may be veterans who just want to hear it all the time. Jim always tells them, hey, look, there are certain codes, there's certain rules that these drivers have to follow. It's not all about battling tooth and nail and going side by side, heading off into every single corner. Sometimes you need to have that give and take, and because those drivers at the front of the field haven't been able to do that, we may end up seeing these drivers close up a little bit, as we saw nearly coming to blows with Scott Brailer in the 210 car and Brian Szynski in the 841. They're at the front of this train that's led by Kirk Nunez, and that gap between Nunez and Love has decreased a lot, so we may end up seeing even more drivers get involved in this front pack fight.
Yeah, we're seeing this front pack just change around so much. We got 2 of the kind of main players there at the front in Samoas and Tor, and then kind of switching around third place back and forth here as we go. But it looks like we're going to go 3 wide again with Montgomery applying the pressure from behind. 3 wide into 10A is never going to work, and DeGassis actually comes out on top of that one. So thinking better of it there a little bit from Samoas. He is going to want to apply that pressure and try to get out in front of DeGassis again here, I would imagine, right away. But man, oh man, talk about a wild first, we got about 6 or 7 cars here that are just in a wild pack. As Brayler in the background here making some moves. You know, he's kind of making me a little bit nervous with some of the moves he's making as we're going too wide into T1 again. And it looks like we're going to sort it out here. Definitely need to go single file through this blind corner as we're seeing. Looks like Jim Brewster there maybe trying to kind of push it a little bit. But Brayler making some moves out there, Ron.
Yeah, Scott Brayler has now closed up that gap between himself and Andrew Love. I was just talking about this a matter of 1 lap ago. We may end up seeing a convergence here in this field. We can certainly see it as Brian Szynski taking a wild run through turn number 4 into the gravel trap. He goes, not going to cost him too much time. However, he's got Michelle Lynn running right behind. And getting back to the discussion of some of the other classes, of course, the battle at the front is still insane with Alan DeGassis, your Masters leader, now jumping into the overall race lead. We haven't seen a non-Spec 1 driver win a race overall in the entirety of the Weekend Warriors up to this point here in Season 2 of 2025, whether it be here in the Formula Vs or tomorrow with the Formula Fords and Spec Racer Fords. Have yet to see a non-Spec 1 driver win. DeGassis may be able to get the job done here at Road Atlanta. Chris Montgomery looking at insult to injury, though, as DeGassis started that straightaway down in P1. He's going to finish it all the way down in P5. I see down in P1, what am I saying? But nonetheless, Alan DeGassis is proving that the draft is oh so powerful here at Road Atlanta. Was in the race lead, dropped down to 4th. He was briefly in 5th, but now it's a side-by-side fight between Brewster and Orr for the 5th spot.
Yeah, it is really impressed with the driving here from everybody in this front pack. Actually, everybody on track at the moment. Everybody is so close and switching positions almost every lap back and forth here. We've done a really good job of staying off each other. Super exciting to watch as we see Brayler pushed it a little bit too far. You know, I was watching him earlier there, and he was cutting shapes out there so aggressively around everyone. I didn't want to say it, but I think that was kind of a matter of time before he just sort of over-aggressed himself right off the road there. But really good driving from Brayler up until that point. He was getting super aggressive. You just got to find that balance every once in a while.
Yeah, find that balance, figure out how to run that tightrope walk that these drivers have to do week in and week out when it comes to these races. As we take a look to see the 210 car of Scott Brayler running right behind Ethan Orr down into turn number 1, hits that curb, and when it comes to these race cars, you hit the curb and you are done. That's going to be a heartbreaking mistake for Scott Brayler. Was in contention for maybe winning it in Spec 2. He's now going to find himself in P15, hopelessly out of contention. One point that I was going to raise, though, talking about this convergence of this field, is the fact that Andrew Love may end up feeling even more pressure when it comes to that Spec 2 class win. I'm going to hold off on that point in a couple of moments as 3 wide between Chris Montgomery, Felix Samoas, and Tortello. Tullo going to back out of him. Montgomery on the inside, Samoas on the outside line, down into the chicane, and it looks like they will single file out. Montgomery going to enter the final 10 minutes of this race, potentially with the race lead, as we take a look at these 2 drivers running right inside or just outside of the top 10. We got Michelle Lynn occupying that final spot in 10th, and Dan Szynski taking up the first spot in P11, as here's a hard charger, Guido. He's jumped his way up into 12th. Well done, Guido, after starting this race from the pit lane. Found himself involved in that battle in P12. With some gaps growing, it may end up being Andrew Love's Spec 1 win for the taking, Spec 2 win for the taking, I should say. I was thinking, okay, with this convergence, that gap that Love had was maybe going to be wiped away, and it was. Keyword being was. He now finds himself in P8, still leading in the Spec 2 class, and unless something major happens within the next 10 minutes, which, hey, I'm not going to rule out, looks like Andrew Love may still be comfortable when it comes to that Spec 2 hot seat.
Yeah, I think he's probably still in pretty good position here. He's got to keep things clean, but like you said, there's still 10 minutes left, and man, in the Vs, when you're switching positions this many times and you're Road Atlanta, absolutely anything is possible around here. Look at this train of cars. Unbelievable. All it could take is just one little incident, and every single one of those cars could end up behind the cars that are behind them at the moment, or off the track, or completely out of the race altogether. We've been real good so far here, though, Ron. So I got trust in these guys that they're going to be able to keep it clean here till the end. But we gone 3-1, I think, into 10A every single lap so far, and we've been able to sort it out so far, back and forth here. It looks like once again we're going to go double file wide through 10A. Looks like Tor's going to come out on top of this one, and Felix Samoa is just going to kind of file in behind him. And it looks like basically this whole kind of pack of cars here, Ron, are just kind of playing ball with each other. They're waiting for that last little bit, then they're going to try to make their move. What you want to be doing now is just thinking about where that move might happen for you, or if even you're going to make it. Maybe you're happy where you are and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to be happy here, and if something presents itself, then I will take it as we go back through T1 again. So easy to make a mistake here like Brayler did earlier there, Ron. There's really only one super fast line through there, and you just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until, well, you kind of end up off in the grass like that. Really easy thing to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what it comes down to in these races, and doubly so with these Formula Vs. I mean, open wheel cars, just generally speaking, do not have a good reputation with curbs when it comes to any racetrack. Heading through turn number 1, though, you hit that, and your next impression will probably be of a lawnmower. So not a good line heading off through turn number 1, but it is that game of chicken. You want to go into that corner with even more speed, lap after lap after lap after lap, find that limit, and then hold it there. But as this race develops, as these tires start to fade away from these competitors and track temperatures change, currently 117 degrees Fahrenheit are the track temperatures, so that's not exactly cool. These tires are definitely feeling a bit greasy. These drivers are dealing with much different conditions than they did at the drop the green flag, or in qualifying, or in practice for that matter. There's so many different things that can change for these drivers, and what makes the good drivers different from the great drivers is the fact that the great drivers will be able to stay on top of those changes. 3 wide racing down into turn number 10. It's such a common occurrence that it rarely even surprises me at this point. Montgomery jumps into the race lead. Tolo in P2. Samoa's running at your podium, but I will still keep my eyes on the Masters drivers of Alan DeGassis and Jim Brewster. A couple of seasons ago, Jim nearly won the race at VIR in a photo finish with himself and Tortolo, so he's no stranger to competing for some pretty good results. Alan DeGassis, though, he's been so quick throughout this season, and if he has a hope of getting involved in that Masters Championship battle, it would be with an overall race win.
Yeah, and he's definitely in it for today, for sure. There's definitely a chance there for either one of these guys to take this one. Guys in the front are looking pretty pointy and very fast, but man, they make one little mistake or decide to get a little bit too aggressive with each other, and Alan and Jim are both going to be there to monopolize on it. That's exactly what Masters drivers do, hence the name. They're out there making sure that they're getting that strategy correct, making sure that they're as calm as they can be, and picking up the pieces when they do fall for them. And it looks like not hopefully, but maybe Alan DeGassis might be able to pick up some pieces here. Although guys at the front have been really super clean so far here, so hopefully we can remain clean and we can get some clean passes done here before the end. But the wee hours of the race are among us now here, and it's going to start getting a little bit more frenetic, I would imagine. Now is when you want to start making that move. We've only got a couple laps to make it happen, and it's starting to get a little fleeting at this point.
The pressure is certainly ramping up for these drivers. Let's see, though, how some of them are going to contend with it. Many of the drivers that you see in this front pack fight, and the drivers that you see going 3 wide down into turn number 10, they're no stranger to doing well. Look at that. We nearly had them 3x2, 2 rows of 3, Indy style, down into turn number 10. Didn't work out that way as Ethan Orr decided not to make it 3 wide with the 2 Masters drivers of Brewster and DeGassis. Also, look at Kurt Nunez getting involved in that battle as well. He just got moved done on Ethan Orr to jump his way up to P6. The battle for the Masters win still going to be just as intense as that battle for the overall race win. Montgomery maybe gonna look to get a move done down the inside into turn number 1. He peeked a nose out. He tried to maybe think about it, but he's not gonna go for it down into turn number 1. We're gonna get to the point where these drivers are waiting to pounce. What we've seen in the first 25 minutes of this race is these drivers testing the waters, seeing where they can get a move done. We're seeing where their cars are the most comfortable and seeing where their competitors are the least comfortable. That's what we've seen out of these drivers in the first 25 minutes. But as we get into the final 5, with only a handful of laps left to go in this 30-minute long race, we're going to see these drivers use the knowledge that they've learned to maybe pounce at the right time. Montgomery maybe even thinking about going for a move in the bottom end of the track through turns number 6 and 7. A move through there, not really going to work. Unless it's a lapped car, that's not going to stick, because you've got this massively long, nearly 1 mile long back straightaway to contend with, where, as we saw from Alan Degassis earlier on, you could go from 1st to 4th in the blink of an eye. So these drivers really need to think about that bottom end of the circuit to position themselves as best as they possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% right. And like you're mentioning there, Ron, you've been kind of watching the whole race here, trying to maybe pick your spot, find that weakness somewhere. You know, every once in a while it's going to reveal it to yourself, and every once in a while you just sort of have to lick the stamp and send it. And it looks like perhaps that's what Montgomery is going for here. He has been real pointy this race, kind of holding back his, after we saw his aggression there early, sort of kind of filed back in, and he's been putting pressure on, but not really slowing anybody down. And that's exactly what you want to do here. It looks like he is got a pretty good chance at it today, I think, but I really don't think you want to be out in first place here come last lap, as we're seeing people just trying to figure out where it is they need to be here lap by lap. It's going to be a difficult one. You do not want to get shuffled backwards. You want to get shuffled forwards.
Yeah, don't get shuffled all the way back. At the same time, though, that's an off-track move for Jim Brewster from 3rd. That's heading through, fittingly, through turn number 3. Runs off the track, and that gap balloons out a little bit between P1 and P2. We haven't seen the breakaway that we were maybe thinking could happen, but hey, there's still enough time left to go in this race where we could see something like that go on. You can just see a catastrophic amount of understeer from Brewster. Misses a turn-in point through turn number 2 into turn 3, and as a result, just skates past any sort of apex of turn number 3. Tough moment for him. Still going to be in P3, but losing out on a tiny bit of time, at least temporarily, as it stands at the moment in this race. With 2.5 minutes left to go on the clock, they're going to be coming to 2 laps to go this time by, and we've got a lot of things left to be determined. That battle for the win in Masters is going to be intense, as much as the battle for the overall win is going to be intense as well. Samoa's, Montgomery, side by side very briefly. Samoa's going to jump into the race lead. Montgomery in P2. Tortolo trying to get a move done on Jim Brewster as well. Still need to think about the driver of the 933 car maybe peeking a nose in and getting a move done to jump his way up into the race lead. If you're P3 or P4 coming onto that back straightaway for the last time, I think you have a really good shot to maybe grab the race lead through the braking zone into the final chicane for the final time in this race. Less than 2 minutes to go and 2 laps left to go at the line, and they're ringing it in with 3 wide action down into turn number 1. Samoa's, Brewster, and Montgomery trading blows. That's Brewster on the inside, Samoa's on the outside. Montgomery had to back out, and he's now side by side with himself and Tullo, heading their way off into the tight twisties right towards the end of this race. This is really starting to flare up, and I really don't have a good feeling about it.
Some contact there in the back for sure. I'm not exactly sure who that was. Looks like maybe it was Michelle Lynn and Ethan Orr. Unfortunately, we've made some contact there, but almost. I can't believe how well the people in the front of the pack here are driving. We've had some pretty frenetic driving back and forth here, but or I shouldn't say frenetic, actually. Some very clean driving back and forth here up at the front. Jim Brewster getting real pointy here on the last lap. But let's have a quick look back here. I believe we lost Michelle Lynn and Ethan Orr on that lap run.
Nope, I called it. I'm not even going to leave any sort of open interpretation. I was like, I have a bad feeling about this, and then they crashed about 15 seconds. Not even 15 seconds. It was about 2 seconds later. You can see a bit of a stack up there. It was Ethan Orr, Parvin Ladar, then Michelle Lynn coming in like an Exocet missile with nothing she could have done to try and avoid contact. This is really getting racy at the front of the field, though. Jim Brewster now in the race lead. Tullo looking to get a move done to jump his way up to P1. Samoa is still involved in that battle as as well. They're side by side, nearly 3 wide down into turn number 1. That's some racy stuff with Samoa's taking a lot of liberties with those track limits down into the first part of that chicane. Turn 10A, looking through. Don't believe he picked up any sort of penalty. Ethan Orr and Michelle Lynn did. They both have black flags that they need to serve at the end of this race. That's going to take them immediately out of discussion for any good results. Samoa's takes a white flag with the race lead. However, Jim Brewster is looking to withstand a challenge from Tortolo. They're side by side down into turn number 1 at the end of this race. That is no room for Tolo, but he still held on to it.
Wow.
Not sure how he went for that, but he still got it done to jump his way up to P2. In all that side by side racing, Felix Samoas has been able to jump out into a bit of a gap, but again, if you're in the race lead coming out of turn number 7 here at Road Atlanta, doesn't matter if you've got a rocket ship powering you, you are going to be a sitting duck with how strong the draft is in these Formula Vs. Some racing going on. That's Montgomery going off the track through the gravel. That'll be a battle potentially for the final podium spot with himself and Jim Brewster. Still need to think about those drivers potentially closing up that gap between themselves and Felix Samoas as well. Side-by-side racing involving DeGassis and Marzuki maybe going to flare up here, but at the front of the field, Samoa's making the weave. That's a slide from Marzuki in the back, a shot, but Felix Samoa is bringing the snake heading down that back straightaway over 0.8 of a mile long, and just plenty of time for Tolo to pant. You can see he's not even chasing it too hard. He's not thinking about this. He wants to get that draft and get that run down into turn number 10. He doesn't need to fight this like crazy. If anything, Samoa's is actually costing himself a lot of time. That gap now less than 1/10 of a second between those two down into turn number 10. Samoa's incredibly deep into the braking zone, and that may have sealed the deal for him. Some side-by-side racing with Montgomery and Brewster still flaring up behind, but the front of the field, Felix Samoas, I thought he was going to be a sitting duck, but instead, he's maybe going to grab the win unless Tolo has anything to say about it with a run at the line. Wasn't enough. Tolo, if he had probably a mile an hour more coming out of that final chicane, Tortolo may have been able to give us a photo finish at the end of this race, but Samoas going to win it at the end of it all here at Road Atlanta. Kurt Nunez grabs a win in the Masters class at the end of it all, with Andrew Love winning in Spec 2, but Felix Samoas, those were some heroics into the braking zone through turn number 10. I thought he was just going to take a one-way trip into the gravel trap.
Yeah, absolutely. Really valiant effort there from Samoas on the last lap to stay out front, not fall or succumb to that draft down the back straight there, doing the Iberian Snake all the way down the straight. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it quite like that and it actually work out. Generally, you kind of just lose more speed maybe that way, and the guy's able to get you anyway, but yeah, that one worked out for him. Tor almost got him at the end there. What a fantastic race run. That was one of the best V races all season, I think, for sure.
Oh, that was an absolute barn burner of a race here at Road Atlanta. It never disappoints. It just does not disappoint ever. Doesn't matter what kind of car you put around here. Road Atlanta is always a gem of a race. And hey, we just saw it get put on full display a couple of moments ago. Andrew Love going to grab his second Spec 2 win of the season. And in a rather odd way, he also finishes in P6 in this race like he did a couple of weeks ago when he won in Spec 2 at Laguna Seca. So well done to him. Kurt Nunez also going to grab his first win in the Masters category up to this point in this season. That will be a fantastic result for the driver of the 918 car at the end of it all, finishing in P4 as well. Reminder to anyone who hasn't tuned into the series before, these drivers are scored based off of their overall finishing position, not off their class position. So that is a fantastic result for Nunez, and here's how he got it done. Heading down the hill at the end of this race, it was a photo finish with himself and Jim Brewster. A little bit of contact being made, some argy-bargy action to be sure, but there's a line, and there is Nunez with his first Masters win of this season. Well done to all of them, because that was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. I would say this is one of those races there, Ron, where you know, the winners of today and the people that made it to the podium, and you know, if you've personal best or anything today, be real proud of yourself. This wasn't an easy race. It was everybody was super clean, as we're seeing some cars getting burned down here. It's like Thor found some off tracks for us there. I think we maybe have a couple more people getting silly here too, but yeah, this wasn't an easy one. There was a lot of fast drivers out there and a lot of people driving fast. You know, that sounds kind of silly, but people were on their game today, and if you were able to kind of come out on top, then man, you were doing pretty good. So yep, I would say that it was a super great race and really good effort from everybody out there too.
Well, smash me. There's Jason Grider driving backwards, heading his way through turn number 1. And is he going to take out the cone? No, he avoided the cone. Well done to Jason for avoiding the cone there, but I have a feeling there may be some more cone wax.
See if he can get the blind turn in right here, going backwards? No.
Oh, nope.
Nope.
That was a
there
blind
goes
turn
the...
in directly into the wall.
Yeah, and it looks like that car has seen better days. I think he's pretty much the last guy on the track here having some fun, so it's probably time for us to get to some results, Ron.
Yeah, I think it's time to take a look at the results at the end of this. Yeah, I think we we will give Felix Samoas a bit more time to maybe join the interview waiting area, because I can already see Andrew Love and Jim Brewster up there. So we'll take a look at the results at the end of the first ever running of the Thompson Trophy 500 here at Road Atlanta. It is won by Felix Samoas. Not a lot of time between himself and Tortello at the very end of it. Holy cow, that was a brilliant drive from Tullo to be able to even be involved in that battle. So well done to him. Also, shout out to Chris Montgomery for finishing in P3, the driver of the number 33 car, putting on a good charge. Kurt Nunez wins it in the Masters category, his first win of the season, finishes in P4 overall. Jim Brewster finishes in 5th. We have Andrew Love in 6th, Alan DeGassis in P7, Guido Marzuki in 8th, Chris Walker in 9th, Parvin Ladar rounds out your top 10. And also credit's due to Andrew Love, one of the only drivers in this field. In fact, I'll have to double check this, but I think the only driver who remained in the same spot from the start to the finish of the race. And then looking outside the top 10, the list continues on with Brian Szynski, Scott Brailer, Michelle Lynn, Jason Grider, Wayne Buttermore, Ethan Orr, Dan Szynski, and Nate Coliseo, with Coliseo DNFing early on after an unfortunate moment down through turn number 1. So those are your results at the end of this race here at Road Atlanta, and we also have some drivers looking to have a chat with us. And I am going to get the festivities kicked off by having a chat with Andrew Love, our Spec 2 winner at the end of this race, finishing in P6 at the end of it all. And to round out the stat that I said earlier on, one of only 2 drivers to be in the same spot at the end of this race as he was at the start. Andrew, welcome into the commentary booth. Happy to talk us through this wacky race at Road Atlanta.
Well, thank you for confirming my goal of starting in the same place that I finish. That was a great race. I had a lot of fun. Probably one of the most fun that I've had in this car in a long time. I think we handled the big group pretty well, except it got kind of slow and backed up going into turn 2-3 area. Just about every lap we were slamming on the brakes and shifting to third when we didn't have to be in third. But I had a great time. I almost want to say it's the best race I've ever had in the V's. But then again, I wasn't knocked out or I didn't kill anybody and anything nasty like that.
And it kept it clean, which around a racetrack like this, I can imagine is a little bit tough considering the amount of side-by-side racing. Pretty much, I feel like every single corner, with maybe a couple of exceptions in the form of turn number 5 and maybe the S's, saw at least one driver decide to try an overtake. So that was just absolutely crazy from start to finish. Some brilliant racing action. It had to be rather stressful behind the wheel, though.
Very much so. I was just trying to be very aware of dive bombs coming up on the inside, coming into corners and giving a lot of space. I know I was 2-3 wide going through some of those sharp corners, like turn 2-3 and 10A and 10B. Is that what it is? Going through those corners, we were too wide.
Chicane?
Yeah, final chicane. But a lot of fun. Good racing with Chris. Chris was really good. He was really aggressive coming up the inside. Congrats to Scott for coming up and catching the lead pack there, but I guess he went wide. As soon as he caught us, he went wide the next corner and bounced through the grass, and that was the last I saw of him. I feel bad for him. But a good race.
And a very good way to get your second Spec 2 win of this season. So must be feeling pretty pleased about your chances heading into Sonoma for the next round of the championship in 1 week's time. That's going to be a rather odd one. Don't really see that track get used too often. So what are your thoughts heading into there in 1 week's time?
I'm looking forward to that track, actually. I think the V's will be a blast on that. I'll probably be a flat out from the last corner all the way to beginning of the back straight, probably. The final corner that comes down through the S's, because I believe we're running the original NASCAR layout, the outer loop, not the inside carousel, I believe.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look for sure. I know iRacing and their labeling of some of the NASCAR configurations of Sonoma has basically been assigned just on a whim. According to my notes, it's on the short cup layout. I believe you would be correct running the outer loop, but
Yeah.
we'll just have to wait and see in 1 week's time
Yep.
what track is actually going to be on there. But
Yeah.
that's going to be some fun. I think I remember from about a year ago at this point in the old Ray Esports series that you're able to do pretty well when the at the time Formula class with the other Formula Vs and the Formula Fords ran here about a year ago. I distinctly remember that race because I started talking about some of the colors with the dashes that y'all had in the cars. So I think that'll be a fun one, though. That's going to be a rather odd
Sonoma
track.
Short
So,
next weekend, if that's I missed some of that there, boys, but it's Sonoma Short next weekend, if that's what we were discussing.
Yeah.
If that-
I run the purple dashboard in honor of Megan Overstreet. So I don't think I got my setup from her, but it's the one I use for the league races. My open setup has the purple dashboard, so it's in honor of, I guess, Michelle and Megan.
Yeah, see, I'm so jealous looking at some of the Formula Vs because I, in my entire karting career, had a Micron 4, and these Formula Vs have a Micron 5. So I was always jealous of
the
people
old
having to
Micron 5.
customize their customize their numbers on there. Because in my old Micron 4, my kart, I can only have green as the background, which was so bright that it felt like it gave me permanent retina damage. But nonetheless, Andrew, thank you for joining us here on the commentary.
Sure thing.
booth. Well done on the win. And before we let you go and celebrate, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Thanks to the sponsor. I forgot who that was. Thanks to
For
the
Nick
group.
Tullo.
Tor this
Oh,
week,
thank you,
yep.
Tor.
The Tors, the Tullos.
Yes. Thank you to Tor and the Tullos, and thank you to the rest of the group, and thank you to you guys for doing the broadcast every week. It sounds great, and I look forward to next week.
And really looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the drivers hit the track at Sonoma in 1 week's time. Andrew, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on the Spec
Sure
2
thing.
win.
Sure thing. Thank you.
That right there was Andrew Love, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race here at Road Atlanta. And Josh, I'll let you take dibs on who you want to have a chat with.
Yeah, let's pull Felix Samoas in here, winner for today. Let's see if we can't get him in here. Felix, you got the win today. Pretty demanding win there as well. It looked like you guys were dicing it up. 3 wide, 2 wide, everywhere on track, every lap into T1. Yeah, how exactly did you do it there? We noticed you pulled out the Iberian Snake there at the end. I'm very surprised that worked all the way down the straightaway, but you got her done, man. Good job. Yeah, how'd you see it out there today?
Yeah, it was a fun race. The whole time we were switching positions, passing one another, giving enough room. There was just an unfortunate situation between Ethan and Nate got the worst of it. Because other than that, it was fun. So it was just waiting for the rest to the end of the race, and I spent as much time as I could testing out how we could do stuff in the last lap. I mean, for example, if the car behind passes me, can I try side draft? And for the most part, it could be defendable as long as there isn't a big difference and a big speed difference. But the thing is, coming to the last lap, I don't remember who was behind in second. It was Jim or whoever it was, and he got behind, and I at some point I had like 0.8 or 9, so I pushed hard, and then Thor was the guy who came out in second place behind me. I mean, and then you come to the back straight with 0.6 of a second gap. And you are sitting duck in that situation. There's nothing you can do if you are in front. So the only possible defense maneuver, I understand that for many people that's not nice, but it's not against the rules. And I didn't put anyone else's race in danger, because as soon as Thor got close, I stick to my position and stayed in a defensive position. I didn't weave anymore. And that's how I won the race. I mean, yeah, you can argue, that's not a very nice maneuver, but until it is written in the rules that we cannot do this, in my opinion, it's a perfectly valid defense maneuver, because otherwise, in a situation like this, in a track like this, with these cars, you're a sitting duck with if you are half a second ahead coming to the back straight.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you there, Felix. That's a totally okay move to do. And then, like you said, as long as you're not weaving, once the car gets close to you and potentially causing an accident or anything, no, that's 100% perfectly fine maneuver. And usually it doesn't work as well as it did today. You're able to just hold it out there. Really good driving, as you're saying as well, from everybody around you today. Lots of back and forth, and everybody keeping it really clean. Lots of aggression, but doing it just right. And I believe next week we are headed to Sonoma Short. Pretty interesting track there as well. I wouldn't say it's like this one, but there are some similarities between this track and that one. Is that one of your favorite tracks there, or not so much?
I kind of like it. To be honest, I don't race in that track for a very long. For many years, I haven't raced there. Let's see how it goes. And I definitely never raced there with this car, so let's see how it goes. I mean, it's not my favorite track, but I don't dislike it either, so let's see.
Right on. Cool. Well, awesome, man. You played some pretty awesome chess out there today. We're able to come up with the win, even after all those lead changes and stuff. We were saying, in the end, whoever gets the win today is really going to have to work for it because everybody's driving so well out there. What a great race we got to watch. But is there anybody you'd like to thank out there before we let you go?
As usual, everyone involved, especially in this race, because we gave enough room, so it was a good race, and the organization, you guys in the booth, and a special shout out again to Michelle to help me with the setup. She's always giving me good tips on how to set up the car, and so far has been proven very valid.
Excellent.
Very helpful.
Right on, Felix. So great win today, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you, guys. Good job.
Have a good one.
And that right there was Felix Samoas, your Spec 1 winner at the end of this race here at Road Atlanta. And let's have a quick little chat before we wrap things up here today with Jim Brewster, who was able to have a pretty good race in the Masters class. Jim, welcome into the booth. It's not the Masters win, but that was pretty darn close to it.
But were you entertained? That's my question.
Absolutely.
Were you entertained? We were entertained too. So first of all, congratulations to Kurt, pulling a great maneuver. We had gotten away. He was back of pack. The front group's farting around enough that everybody came together, and he worked his way up through and got past Alan. I just was fighting like crazy to catch up to Alan. He had gotten way out front. He had moved all the way up to the lead, I think, at one point, and I was thrilled to be past him. And then fighting with Chris. Unfortunately, Chris had a little bit of a lockup inside of me going into the last chicane, and we both lost momentum, or at least I did for sure. And here comes Kurt just chugging right there. I go, oh man, but that was a lot of fun. So congratulations to Kurt and everybody else. I had a good practice with Chris Walker, and he had a great race. Ended up getting silver in S2, so that's great for him. I hadn't spent any time racing with him, but we spent a much time together in practice. But anyway, lots of fun. That's why we enjoy racing from Levies. And I've been grumpy all week. This is not my favorite place, but boy, it sure made for some good racing.
And now, speaking of good racing, and maybe a bit of a question mark next to next week's race at Sonoma, running on the short layout for the NASCAR Cup Series. So that's going to be a rather draft-heavy race, which is saying something, because that track is really nothing but turns.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't run it at all. That was requested. I can't remember off the top of my head who requested it, and I'm going to be out of town all week until Friday night, and so I'll be practicing my Friday night draft party where I learn the track. It's we've run the carousel section a bunch, and this is a nice alternative. I don't know. I'm afraid it's so technical we'll get spread out, but you never know. It's a technical track, no two ways about it. Then we go to Lime Rock, and you know how crazy that is. Then we're finishing up Oran Park, which Oran Park is much nicer in the V's than other cars. But anyway, it's been a good season. We'll get ready for another season after we finish this one, but we're going to be fighting out the points here. I don't know if we're totally settled out. I know we're a little bit spread out, but anyway, so glad to have you guys along. I'm sure you had some fun with that one. It's pretty exciting how few incidents there were. Nate got bounced out. I don't know if anybody else got bounced out, but pretty good for the excitement level.
Yeah, I gotta say, for the first ever running of this event, whose name title I said twice, thanks to our sponsor Tortello and his dad Nick for making this broadcast possible today.
And they're the ones who requested it. That's who requested the track. So that's how we get the track out on the schedule.
And unfortunately for Tor, the other track that he suggests, he ends up finishing P2 instead of P1. I mean, it's still a second place result. I'm sure he's not going to be too upset about that. I'm sure he probably wanted the victory at the end of it. He's a young guy. He wants to grab victory. So
I don't know if you guys watched, but just how slow that front group was going in through like turn 3, and it just kept packing up the bunch behind us. And you have to hear the people talking on the radio, just like, you know, how much brakes can he use? Everybody was like jamming on their brakes, trying not to run over the guy in front of them. And that's why the front pack just kept growing and growing and growing, you know, because the front 3 were fighting so hard. They were going in through some of those corners so slow. Because what happens is you go 3 wide, and then you have to pick which order you're going into that next narrow corner. And that decision as to who goes you me, it just can't be done instantaneously. You know, so crazy but fun.
Yeah, but overall, just an absolutely fantastic race here at Road Atlanta, and looking forward to Sonoma in 1 week's time. Jim, thank you so much for joining us here in the commentary booth.
Thank you, guys. Hi, Tam. Hi, Tam.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks everything, guys. See you next week.
Yes, see you as well. That right there was Jim Brewster, your P2 finisher at the end of this race. I will raise my voice so I don't have too many voice cracks at the end of this broadcast. But Josh, that was fun. Sonoma in 1 week's time, though. Holy cow.
Yeah, Sonoma. I really do like Sonoma. It's a great track. I know some people don't like it. I like it. You know, it's got some similarities to this one, just in the sense that, it's fairly narrow. It's pretty windy and twisty. It's got some undulation. It's got a blind corner or 2 or 3. I really like that place, so it should be interesting. I'm not really super familiar with the short layout, so that'll be a bit of a discovery for me. But yeah, what a fantastic race we had today at Road Atlanta. This place always delivers. V's always deliver. Really good driving from everybody on board today, and yeah, just a great race to be a part of.
A nice little ceremonial event for me as well. This is my 150th broadcast of this year already, and next week is going to be my third ever broadcast at Sonoma. So really, that's a track that doesn't get a whole lot of views at all here on the iRacing platform. So really looking forward to seeing what that race may hold, but we just have a lot of racing action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting to look forward to, hopefully every single day at some point in the not too far off future. But here's the schedule as it stands presently. Yeah, it is certainly coming. On Sundays, you can of course catch the action from the rest of the Weekend Warriors series. Formula V's you can catch here on Saturdays at 3:20 p.m. Eastern time. Then for Sunday, we have got you booked with the Formula Fords at 1:45 and the Spec Racer Fords at 3:45, followed on Sunday evenings by XSLR, about to hit the 87 Cup cars running at Charlotte this upcoming weekend, with some rather interesting names going to be running in some of those NASCAR races. So hopefully all of you will be able to tune in for those. And during the week, we've got the action from SRG and the XMS IndyCar Championship Series all throughout the week. Gives you a good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of the broadcasts or miss out on one of the videos here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Some of the YouTube shorts have been doing absolutely wonderful, and I'm not just saying that because Josh and I have been the ones making those. But as for this broadcast today for round number 9 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors at Road Atlanta, I nearly said Formula Fords and I completely threw off my broadcast close. That will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's broadcast, I say thank you also very much for watching this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today. And that's a lot of times I can say broadcasting, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future. of 2025. Let's see what sort of adventures that it has in store. That pace car way through the corner. That wasn't the crest doing him dirty.
There right off the beginning. It's something you probably want to monopolize on right away, honestly, in a rain race.
Involved in that as well. Godin, I believe, is a newer racer. Oh, that's a big crash coming out of the corner. Renaissance mentioning all of those racers. That the field. We saw him have that off-track moment not terribly long ago, and he has come back from a... And oh my god, that's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4. Multiple cars around. A little bit of contact going to Chris Montgomery as well. I saw that car kind of jerk around a little bit through that corner, but you can see Montgomery maybe got to size up a move on Colacio, as Colacio may try and get a move on him. That is 5-6 cars covered by just about nothing on this racetrack. Nearly 4 wide through the corner. Look at Colacio going way deep into turn 5. He's going to lose out on that spot on Chris Montgomery and maybe Colacio. Too low contact being... Weekly Formula V Weekend Warriors Crash 'em Up Wreckfest at the Checkered Flag. May God have mercy on both Josh and I's graphics cards because the event does...